Hello again, guys. Today's October the 3rd, so I gotta make this video. Nintendo usually makes their Nintendo Direct announcement 2 days prior before the actual Nintendo Direct takes place. And that hasn't happened already for October the 4th, so I'm gonna say I'm wrong about the October the 4th announcement for the Nintendo NX. So I don't think it's gonna be announced on October the 4th anymore. It just seems highly unlikely. Will it be announced sometime in October? I would say at this point it's pretty unpredictable. Nintendo hasn't really said anything, hasn't done anything. So whether or not Nintendo's going to announce this the Nintendo NX anytime soon, it seems like maybe not. Some people will probably guess sometime in October. I mean, the news stories that it was going to be sometime in October seem pretty true, so it still may be announced sometime in October. However, we're already past, or we're going to pass the 6 months point here. If it's going to be a release sometime early March, like the previous launch date, which was March 4th, that people were guessing. So I don't think it's going to be either. It's not going to be released March 4th, and they're going to give it 6 months beforehand, or Nintendo's going to try something different where they don't announce it with 6 months, with a 6-month deadline. So you're probably going to see it announced sometime pretty close to release, or maybe they won't announce it like that at all, or maybe they'll delay the Nintendo NX to sometime later in the year, which I would say is pretty smart, but at the same time, it's also, since so many people are hyped up for it to already be released in March, and Nintendo kept saying it was going to be released in March, I think it's a bad idea if they don't release it in March. However, we just don't know, so it could be or it could not be released in March. What I'm guessing is like maybe Nintendo's changing their strategy. They're probably going to try to imitate Apple or something, and they're going to announce the Nintendo NX probably in the same month it gets released. If they do this, I think it's a bad idea. If we've already learned anything from like the Sega Saturn, where it was announced and it was released at the same day, that's not a good idea. But again, they're not going to do that. They're going to probably announce it like an iPhone gets announced, which is a few days before it gets released. The thing is, though, iPhones are different. It's a different market. Again, like I said in my prior videos, it's the money and the way it's spent. It's completely different. People buy iPhones or smartphones for a different reason, and they know, like already they know an iPhone gets released sometime in September. They already expect it. Even when the first iPhone was announced, it was announced at the same time like a new iPod was announced. People already knew when it was going to come out, and people already had the money and everything. So people that were interested could just buy it. And if you didn't have the money, you can just sign a contract and get it. So unless Nintendo's going to do some silly contract thing where you can get an NX, which won't work for kids at all, so the kid market's out, which doesn't sound very Nintendo-y. So all I can say is, like, I don't think the Nintendo NX is going to be necessarily announced that way, but it might. And if they do announce it that way, there might be some terrible things that might happen, but I really can't say. I don't know. Like, the thing better be cheap, I guess, at this point, especially if it's going to be announced so quickly, or they can just expect, like, to sell it over time through word of mouth, especially, I mean, if the system's going to last a long time, and they have an idea where it will evolve over time, and maybe it'll keep getting, like, traction over time, and then it'll, like, have a snowball effect or something. Like, if that's their plan, to build a system that lasts, like, 20 years or something, then maybe it could be expensive now, and they can work based on reputation. But Nintendo really needs to work on their reputation. If this thing's a success, they need to make their next system even better, and keep that reputation up. Like their one mistake with the Nintendo Wii, I think, is like they made a underperforming system, and then when they released the Wii, they then they already had a good name on their side. They had third-party developers. They just couldn't release their games. So like if they had made the Wii U as powerful as the PlayStation 4 was, or even near it, they probably wouldn't have a successful system to nowadays. But they didn't do that. They released an underpowered system that cost too much, and people went to stores and they thought about, should they buy a system with similar graphics that's older and has more games and they're cheaper, or buy a system that's new and it's getting the same games released for like 3 times the price because they're brand new now, supposedly. And people chose to buy the old system, of course, because it's cheaper. So this better be cheap at this moment. Like, Nintendo is really not competing in a good market at the moment. Like, it's mid-generation. Mid-generation is difficult to sell a new system for. So like, if they don't make it, like, it has to like be like the Nintendo Wii U, the original Wii, which was kind of like a second system for a lot of people. It may have been like their only system, but again, these kinds of people or the people like or the casual market that buys their systems are specific. So they need to make this cheap in order to build their reputation again, I think, and then sell it. But what it seems like what Nintendo's doing right now, it's very hard to predict. It's very, very hard. I don't know if they're going to announce it anytime soon. I kind of seem to be doubting it. Like, the hype's already dying, to be honest, with a lot of people. A lot of people are, I mean, it's building up slightly, the hype, but at the same time, there's a whole group of people that just don't care anymore, and they've just given up. And the more time Nintendo waits, I think the worse it'll get for them. So they either better announce this sometime soon, or they better have some great plan on how they're going to announce this to build, again, hype. I don't know what they're planning. I guess they're going to wait until all their games come out or whatever, but at the same time, Nintendo's never done that. Even with the Super Nintendo, they had several games that were going to come out before they announced the Nintendo 64. They just didn't care. They had to announce it, so they announced it. And that's important. But I don't know. Their business market's completely different nowadays. Like, they make a profit on every system sold. It's totally a different market. And then they still charge an exuberant amount for like video games. So I really don't. I do understand where the market's going, but I don't see what Nintendo's trying to do. They might be trying to do something very different, but that's part of the excitement as well. Because like, if they do something different, then they might have a good idea. But at the same time, this also seems like business mistakes on like video game companies make, and specifically looking at the past, they constantly make these same mistakes. They've done, like, Sega's the prime example of what mistakes you can do within our generation, at least. Prior to that was the Atari. But like, there's so many things, and it's almost like the businessmen don't ever learn, and they keep doing the same mistake again and again. And I don't know if Nintendo's going to do that. I really hope they're not, since I do think they're making something completely different. I'm pretty sure it'll be different from what anyone has guessed. I mean, I think it's going to be based on the structure of what the thing is, not so much the games it'll play, although that's part of it. And I don't think so much the way it looks. It's probably going to look something like what people already predict. I don't think it's like that crazy game system that people have seen, like that's a tablet. That's too insane. That's not going to sell. Everyone knows that. But then again, we all kind of would have predicted that with the Wii U controller had we seen it beforehand. But Nintendo kind of went ahead and released that thing like that. And who knows? Like, they might have learned. I think if so many people are saying they've learned, even though they have a special interest in saying that. But if people are saying that, I'm kind of willing to believe it. And so I'm thinking the system looks and plays better than what it looks. And at the same time, I'm pretty sure it has a really, like, it's going to be something that when you see it, you're going to love it. Like, unless Nintendo's planning on not making more game systems, like, I'm pretty sure it is. Like, they probably have learned. I'm going to say they have learned, but I don't know when the announcement is going to be. And if it doesn't come sometime in the end of the year, I would say there's probably going to be a delay unless they're going to try to do that some Apple-style announcement, which I would say is not very smart for video games. Since, again, they're not smartphones. Unless the Nintendo NX is a smartphone. But even then, no one wants to buy a Nintendo smartphone because it kind of sounds like something for kids. So, like, they need to change their whole image, in other words, to do that. And I guess they're going to risk a lot, and they're going to lose a lot of money until they get it. Because, like, even Microsoft had to change their reputation or their image just to sell video games. And then to this day, they're not really profitable with that side of their business. But they have an idea, and they have some concept behind it. So I'm hoping Nintendo does the same thing. I just really don't know. So, I mean, I don't expect any announcement anytime soon, to be honest. I'm kind of willing to say that there's probably going to be an announcement sometime in October, but if there isn't, then, and the news stories were wrong, and whatever supposed insiders had said, like, if there is an announcement sometime in October, there's probably not going to be an announcement until sometime next year. Or not next year, but later on, and it's unpredictable when. It's totally unpredictable, but whatever it is there might be like a delay between 6 months, so maybe the system will get delayed as well. So just keep an eye out for that, but I just don't know what to say. Like, it at this point, since there was no announcement, I would say it's up to Nintendo. It might be sometime in October, and I'm just gonna say, like, if it's sometime later in October, it's gonna be delayed by whatever amount of the ASIC comes by. So if it was gonna be released March 4th, for instance, I predicted that it was gonna be announced October the 4th. But since it's not being released, since it's not being announced October the 4th, I'm gonna guess it's gonna be released sometime later in March at this moment. So that's everything I wanted to say, guys. I hope you guys have a good day. I'll talk to you guys later. Goodbye.